Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We've learned a lesson today about technical difficulties that if you just wait, sometimes the problem will go away. It doesn't always work like that. Usually you have to do a something or undo a something, but he did all the right things and it wasn't doing the something, and now it should be doing the something. You think we're good? It looks good. Shabbat Shalom. So we have joyous things to do tonight and painfully sad things to do tonight. And it's hard on us to have to do all of the above. We had that tragedy in Miami that one of the numbers I heard was, well, the unaccounted for now is over 150 people. And there have been 4 confirmed deaths. And so not to talk about this during the service, I wanted to just let you know, I don't know if you realize this, we talk about it sometimes. In Jewish tradition, it's important that the whole body gets buried, that we honor all of the body, which is why we don't embalm, because when you embalm, you remove the fluid from the body, and that means that the fluid that had come with the body is not being buried with the body. If you are in a situation where you bleed, then the clothing that had the blood on them should be buried with the person. There are all of these details, but the horrible time is when there's a tragedy like this, where sometimes there's small, I don't want to talk about it, but there's a team there, there's an Orthodox team that's specialized in that, in finding all human remains, and then trying to identify it. And they've been standing by. There were more than 20 Orthodox Jews in that building, 10 Israeli citizens. There were a number of citizens from South American countries who I am presuming were not Jewish, but I don't know that because we know some Jews from down there too. But this isn't a story about how many Jews have gone through the tragedy, but a disproportionate number of Jews went through that. And I don't know how often you say, well, it's something that happened there and to them, but it's not. It's something that happened here and to us. It's our tragedy in the United States. It's arguably apparently one of the worst building disasters, collapse disasters ever in the history of the United States. And it happened this week, and it's on our watch, so we will be praying for survivors. We'll be praying that they find the survivors. We'll be praying for the families. And it's hard. And it's hard not to feel it in our hearts. But we're also here to celebrate Shabbat. And so on Shabbat, we have this special gift in Judaism where, as strange as it may sound for those of us who are feeling this overwhelming amount of grief, we are supposed to kind of suspend grief for all of Shabbat. You're obligated to be joyful on Shabbat. Obligated to be joyful on Shabbat. And so it doesn't mean that you're not feeling the grief inside. We have no jurisdiction over what goes on in your emotions, but there's something that's a public display. So it is like when you may be sad because a parent, God forbid, a parent dies, and you stand up, proudly say the Kaddish, which is a prayer that praises God. That's you being outwardly, publicly doing something respectful, when inwardly, inside, the grief may be consuming. So there's something that's a blessing about that, about knowing that no matter how hard life gets, you have a moment in time where you can take a break from having to experience that. One of the traditions that I always liked, and it's not a thing here so much as it is in some other communities. Let's say we were the kind of congregation, I know you're going to laugh at me if I say this about a Reformed congregation, but Reformed Jews do this too, some, very few. But what if we had services every day? And what if we would pray every morning and every night? The kids do it at camp. Some camps do it every morning and every night, Reformed Jewish camps. But let's say we did that. You would probably have a seat that you would sit in all the time when you come in. And you know who sat behind you, in front of you, and you'd come and you'd talk to them. When you're in mourning, you're not supposed to sit in that same seat. You're supposed to move because life is different. And so the whole world feels different. but on Shabbat, you're allowed to go back to your regular seat. That's a really small example of what we feel like when we're observing Shabbat, in a way that doesn't totally apply to us, but I think that there's something symbolic about that. I'm glad to see people back in their usual seats, let's put it that way, for more reasons than I can say. Even if it's a new seat for you, I'm glad to see you. Even if it's not the seat you always sit in. Every time you come, you're in a different seat. That's okay too. I'm glad to see you in your seats, and I'm glad to see you here on Shabbat when we get to mostly, essentially, not have to worry about our public sense of the overwhelming amount of grief that we may feel. So that's a thing. And we begin our service then on Shabbat with remembering that any tsuris that we have, you know what tsuris is? Troubles. So if you read the email, and this isn't a test, I promise you, I don't have tests on Shabbat, but if you read the email, you would see that I posted a new blog. And the blog is a little bit of a synopsis of what I sent to the kids who went to camp this week. I heard this joke, and the joke was, why shouldn't you wrestle a Tyrannosaurus Rex? And the answer is, because they're all dead. That's what I thought, but that wasn't the answer. That wasn't the answer they gave. Sydney and I think alike. So that's, but the answer that they gave in the joke was because they're a sore loser. Yeah, ouch. So then there was a second part to the answer, and it said, and they'll eat you. So I giggled my head off when they said, and they'll eat you. I thought that was hysterical. I thought it was going to have something to do with the obvious answer, like Sydney said, well, they're all dead. How am I going to be wrestling them? But I'm trying to imagine the idea of arm wrestling a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I thought that was hysterical, but they didn't do that. They did that joke. And so it made me laugh, and I was looking for a joke to send the kids at camp, and I hope that wasn't too gory to think that the Tyrannosaurus was going to eat him. But then I thought, what would a good Jewish dinosaur be like? And so I invented two dinosaurs that I kind of paint shopped together. One is, instead of Brachiosaurus, I called it a Brachasaurus. And it was, the Brachasaurus is like a long thing that looks like, a really long dinosaur. And so it was wearing a yarmulke, because some of them have little bumps on their head anyway, depending on the pictures. I don't know what they know about them. And a talus. And so I said, if you're in need of a good bracha, then you call the Brachasaurus. And then I also had a Tyrannosaurus, because tsuris, tsuris means, in Yiddish, it means troubles. And so this dinosaur has a yarmulke, but it's kind of off his head sideways, and he's wearing a talus, but it's kind of falling off. And he's got his little teeny arms with a prayer book, but if you look carefully, you see that the prayer book is upside down. It says Shema Yisrael on it, but it's upside down, because he's nothing but tsuris. He's going to give you troubles. So that was my revenge for the bad joke. But if you can think of good, and I sent a postcard for the kids to write back, maybe draw a picture of a dinosaur for me, or send me something about what's going on. Anyway, that's what I did. I feel sad this year because I don't get to go visit them. So I'm looking for another joke, and I actually have another joke I'm going to send them. So you may want to watch the blog. I'm not putting sad things in the blog, but I'm putting jokes, I guess, this week. But all of those things are left outside. All of the you don't have to think about what you didn't write or did write this week. You leave it all outside, and all of your to-do lists all outside. Can you imagine what it's like not to have a to-do list? Can you imagine? Just for a minute? All right. And then take a deep breath. And I have a new way to take a deep breath. Two new methods. One that I taught a specialist last week. We had that ISJL conference on emotional learning, and they talked about inhaling and exhaling and how to do it correctly, and they had never heard this. And this is one way that you teach the kids how to breathe. Like when kids are having an anxiety attack or something, you say, you smell the soup, and then you blow on it to get it cold. Try again. So that's good. The other thing that I learned is this. You take your hand and put it on your stomach, and when you breathe in, you're supposed to feel your stomach come out, because a good gut tummy breath is more comforting. And if you feel your hand on your stomach, then that's a comforting thing too. It's as if you're getting a hug, that you're protected. So if you ever feel like you need that, try that kind of a breath and then let it go. Like this again. So we did some breathing. I didn't do it by the candles because, I don't want to blow out the candles while we're doing this. We are going to do service 3 tonight, and I think you'll see why. And we turn to page 82, and if it's comfortable for you to do so, please rise, because if we were home, which we are, this is our home, then we will be standing and sitting. So please join me on page 82. These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain... Did I tell you a page? Yes, 82. I don't hear anybody reading. Can you hear anybody reading? Did you? Just me? Say it again. Read with me, page 82. These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. I'm going to do this in Hebrew. If you need the English, look at the English. Baruch Shemoy, Baruch Shemoy, Baruch Shemoy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat candles. I want you to look at somebody that you came in with and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. If you have to do this, do this. I want you to look at people you didn't come in with, and I want you to say Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. And then you can sit down. Shabbat Shalom. Everybody get one? Everybody have at least one? Maybe 2? Did you get some? It's a good thing I can't hear you. What? Dinosaurs are vegan? I thought the Tyrannosaurus Rex supposedly wasn't. It had really powerful legs to track you, to run you down. The vegan part doesn't scare me, but the Tyrannosaur, I don't know. How many people think that the Tyrannosaurus would have eaten you? And how many people think a Tyrannosaurus was vegan? I don't know. So what you're trying to tell me is that we don't have to invent any kosher dinosaurs because they were all kosher, because if you're vegan, you are automatically kosher. That's perfect. So, what? That's a dragon. Next week maybe I'll tell a joke about dragons instead. There's a reason for me to tell that joke already today, and that has something to do with what I'll talk about later in the Torah portion this weekend. If anybody's been looking ahead, then you'll see why I'm telling jokes about animals. But I love the idea that most dinosaurs are vegan, because that works in our house too, because some of us are vegans, except we now have a cat in the house. And do you know what a cat is? An obligate carnivore. Obligate carnivore. That's what they're called. That means they are obligated to eat meat. They really shouldn't eat almost any vegetables whatsoever. That's you. You're my cat. Purr. You sleep 23 hours a day, and then wake me up by doing this. Poke, 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 poke at 4 a.m. Don't do that. I'm not happy about that. Page 83, at the bottom of the page, we read responsively. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own.
On Shabbat, we wish not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature and dinosaurs with reckless greed.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we think only of ourselves.
On Shabbat, we lend our hearts to the needs of others.
Therefore, we welcome Shabbat.
Day of rest, day of joy, day of peace.
And we welcome the angels that accompany us on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch of you must have been looking at the translation. Some of you are probably looking at transliteration, and some of you are looking at the Hebrew. But I kept saying Elyon because, not just because it's a high note, but Elyon means the highest. That's what it means. So I'm acting out the words, that's all. That's how tall my dinosaur is. That's what I was trying to do. No. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace. Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here, and here find life. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותיה, וימליך מלכותיה, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה, בעגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when, to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your presence.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated unless you want to help me with this one. And I'm thinking you might want to help me with this one this time. Do you want to? Not really? Okay. I got this. Nobody else wants to come up? Not even? No, never mind. I won't put anybody on the spot. Page 88. Anyone who wants to help join me, please sing from where you are. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God. Ani, I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors, nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant, whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors on the shore of the Red Sea.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Ya la 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 ya la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la, la 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 ya la la ya la, ya la 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 ya la 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 la. V'ne'emar, and it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. We continue at the top of page 92. If you're watching this online, I hope you found where to find these books, because I gave you copies. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. Baruch atah Adonai, praised are you, Adonai, haporei sukkah shalom, who spreads out a sukkah of peace, aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, upon us, upon all of the people of Israel, v'al Yerushalayim, on Jerusalem, and I'm going to say, ועל כל העולם, and on all the world. We give thanks for the night and its rest and the promise of peace for all the world. Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Please rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 93. Tefillah means praise or prayer. It's also called the Amidah, the standing prayer. It's also called the Shmona Esrei, the 18 prayers. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. God of all generations, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, be praised. Your wondrous creative power fills heaven and earth.
God of life and death, be praised. Through us, send help to the falling, healing to the sick, freedom to the captive. Confirm your faithfulness to those who sleep in the dust.
Awesome and holy God, be praised. With acts of love and truth, we hallow your name. As it is said, all y'all be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy. God of times and seasons, be praised. Enable us through Sabbath rest to explore and learn and impart the meanings of your Torah. Make our hearts ready to serve you this day and all days. God who answers prayer, be praised. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer. Wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God.
Source of life and its wonders, be praised. You are the miracle within all we behold. You are goodness, you are compassion. We give thanks to you forever.
We read together below the Hebrew. God of peace, of justice, and of love, be praised. Inspire us to banish forever hatred, war, and bloodshed. Help us to establish forever one human family united in peace. God of peace, bless us with peace.
Shalom Rab al Yisrael Amcha
tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael, b'kol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha, tasim le'olam. Tasim le'olam. Tasim le'olam.
We take a moment for silent prayer. What's on page 96 or whatever your heart prompts. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. At this point in our service, our hearts and our prayers turn to all those who are ill or recuperating. And of course, we do include all those people who are either waiting for their loved ones or have been pulled out of the rubble in Miami. But if you have other names that you would like for us to include in our prayers for healing, I invite you to do so. Call them out. For all these names, for the names we choose to hold in our hearts and not say out loud, we pray together. O God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health, and it has become our tradition to add an additional Mishaberach on behalf of the military, the police, the firefighters, the EMTs, the doctors, the nurses, and the veterans. Mishaberach avotenu ve'imotenu, May the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we've entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom, protecting us, or healing us in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they've been called to serve. Give them courage to succeed and strength to persevere. May they return home safely, and let us say. So I told you that there was a reason why I was talking about dinosaurs today. It has something to do with the Torah portion. There's a really important, really fun animal in the Torah portion this week. What's the fun animal that we have in the Torah? Donkey. The donkey is the fun animal we have in the Torah portion. In the Torah portion, the donkey gets to see what the human doesn't see. In the Torah, in your translation, it didn't say donkey. In your translation, it probably says she-ass, not just any old ass. It's a she-ass. I'm just saying, that's what it says. So I'm just saying. So I hope that everybody's giggling already, because that's what we do. But in the Torah portion, the donkey, the she-ass, sees I forgot to bring it again. The she-ass sees that there's an angel. We've already talked about angels. This angel is very strong and very big and carrying very big swords and is blocking the way. And the angel is standing there blocking, and only the donkey sees it. And the guy riding on his back, who's supposed to be heading out to curse the Jews, doesn't see that an angel is blocking his way, that he shouldn't go cursing the Jews. But the donkey sees it. And the donkey eventually turns around and starts talking to... There is a word called jackass too, right? Is that the opposite? The she-ass and the jackass? Is that what this is? The guy on the back, they don't say he's a jackass, but he's not a very smart guy. And the donkey says, why are you hitting me and why do you keep stopping? Can't you see there's this giant angel in front of us, this really macho guy? And the guy says, what are you talking? Oh, I see it now. If you want to hear about what happens in that Torah portion, you have to come to Torah study tomorrow. It's on Zoom. It's easy. You could do it in your pajamas or half pajamas, whatever you want to do. But I wanted to tell you about a story that I heard this week about a donkey. That was a story, and this is how it was told, although the more I think about it, if I were writing the story, I would probably not have it be told this way. It was about a donkey and a tiger. And the donkey and the tiger got into an argument. And the donkey says, the grass is blue. And the tiger says, that's ridiculous. The grass isn't blue. The grass is green. The donkey says, that's ridiculous. The grass is blue. Can't you see the grass is blue? And the tiger says, no, I think the grass is green. And they start getting into a more and more heated debate to the point where they can barely breathe. They can barely talk to each other. And they said, we've got to solve this once and for all. We've got to resolve this. We're going to the king. And of course, the king of the jungle is the lion. And they go to the lion and they say, the tiger starts to open his mouth to say, tell this donkey that the grass is green. But before the tiger could say that, the donkey says, Your Majesty, tell this guy that the grass is blue. The grass is blue. It's ridiculous. Why does he think the grass is green? The grass is blue. Tell him the grass is blue. And the king, the lion, very calmly says, donkey, you are right. The grass is blue. See, I told you the grass is blue. And he walks away. And the tiger looks at the lion. They've been friends a really long time. And the tiger says, Your Majesty, why did you just say that the grass is blue? Isn't the grass green? And the lion said, of course, the grass is green. Well, so then why did you just tell him he was right? And more than that, before the donkey left, I forgot this part, before the donkey left, because sometimes I'm a donkey when I'm telling these things, before the donkey left, the donkey says, now you got to punish him because he's being so mean to me saying that the grass was green. And the king says, you're right. He is now punished. He is not allowed to speak for a year. And the tiger was shocked, and the donkey went away. You remember the part about, nah, I was right, you were wrong. Goes away. And that's when the tiger says, why did you tell him that the grass was blue? Don't you think the grass is green? And the king said, yes, the grass is green. And why did you punish me to say that I have to be quiet for a year? And the king, the lion, said, because this was a stupid argument. You should never have had this argument, and you absolutely should never have brought it to me as if this is the highest importance in the court. So, I don't know what you're supposed to do if you see a Tyrannosaurus Rex, if you should invite it to salad like Sydney says, or if you should arm wrestle it like I say, because I think that's hysterical. But I know that there are some things that we shouldn't be arguing about, like what happens when we see a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And we certainly shouldn't be bringing it to the highest office in the court. I know that there's supposed to be a political story in here. I don't want to turn this into a political story. I do want us each to think about what's important in life. Because sometimes when you're confronted with the option of either the Tyrannosaurus is going to eat you, or you just go on living and you make a smarter choice, make the smarter choice. See if you can open your eyes and see that there's an angel right in front of you. See if you can live life that way and not always be arguing about if the grass is green or blue. I like those stories, and I like that each of those stories had a donkey in it. That's what I'm sharing with you today, because it has to do with the Torah portion tomorrow, believe it or not. Madam President, I'm not getting into arguments with you. I thought those were cute. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're on now.
Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Jana has an Oneg Shabbat tonight on Zoom. It'll be about 30 minutes after this service ends. I hope you'll check the website for details about how to join in. We will also do a Zoom tomorrow for the 9:45 Torah study and 11 a.m. Shabbat morning service. This week, Rabbi will be doing ethical dilemmas from a Jewish perspective at the Oaks on Wednesday. Next Friday, we will have Simcha Shabbat, when we celebrate everyone with birthdays or anniversaries in July. We will also be celebrating the United States Independence Day. Mark your calendars for 6 p.m. Friday, July 23rd, when we celebrate with Avery Brainas and her family as she helps lead the service and is called to the Torah in honor of her becoming a bat mitzvah. We hope you have heard that the Louisianans who have at least had one COVID shot by the end of July can sign up to win $1 million or $100,000. There are scholarships for those 12 to 17-year-olds and cash for 18 and older. Sign up, and details are on the website shotatamillion.com, and if you win, think of us. There are more details about events and news in your email, one call, and online at the B'nai Zion website. Donations were made to B'nai Zion's Sisterhood Flower Fund in loving memory of Henry Clark by Harriet Glazer, in loving memory of Fritz Glazer by Harriet Glazer, Woodrow Woody Levin by Lynn and Bear Rambach, in loving memory of Louis Lobel by Dorothy and Bernard Lobel, in loving memory of H. Leo Greenberg by Donna and Randy Gringus, and in loving memory of Anne Benacher by Marla Kennedy.
Benuker. And Gringus, you said Greenberg. You said
It says Greenberg. It
It's
is
not
Gringus, and I
it's
do know that,
Gringus.
and I apologize, Randy. But it does say,
but it does say
I
Venuker.
don't want to say that somebody typed it wrong.
You
but
could say it. It wasn't me this time. Somebody.
We're,
wasn't.
we're
Just
not
kidding.
blaming
We won't blame
anyone.
anybody. There was a donkey in the
Nobody.
house. No one was a donkey. We
But
take
Shabbat
responsibility.
Shalom and stay safe.
Stay safe. All right, you can stay up here and you can be honored with helping us open the Ark. There's lots of news. I hope you got to see the email because we got money from Kroger and there are other things happening. But right now, I'd like everyone to please turn to page 148. And when the Ark is open, please rise. Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. And on the facing page we're going to sing Hebrew. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Look how happy those Torah scrolls are. They each got taken out and read today, this week. That was awesome. You may be seated. We continue on page 151. Thank you. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We acknowledge that there have been 4 people who have died in our military. We've lost 155 police officers, 73 were COVID-related. We've lost 9 canine officers. We've lost 50 firefighters. 21 were COVID-related. And you know what the numbers are. Louisiana, we've already lost over 10,700 people. In the United States, over 603,000. And in the world, over 3,900,000 people. And we lost all those people we mentioned before. And we pray that not everyone is lost who has not been recovered yet in that tragedy in the Miami building collapse. But as we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We turn to page 153. In nature's ebb and flow, your eternal law abides. As you are our support in the struggles of life, so also are you our hope in death. In your care, O God, are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Your power gives us strength. Your love comforts us. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts. Fill us with trust in you and turn us again to the tasks of life. And may the memory of our loved ones inspire us to continue their work for the coming of your sovereign rule. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We remember those for whom we're still observing Shloshim, which means we're 30 days since they died. We remember Ron Riley and Fred Phillips. And we remember congregants' parents who died within the past year. We remember Tommy Crowder, Sophie Lipo, Robert Talbert, Joseph Paris, Artis Robison, George Rothkopf, and Henry Brenner. And as we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own. I'm going to note that this is an unusually long list. I'm surprised by that. This week, the yortzites that occurred this past week include Jerry Lynn Arnold, Warner E. Berg, Henry Clark, Dora W. Fain, Harold Feigelson, Bertha Feldman, Fritz Glazer, Alan Remy Gold, H. Leo Gringus, Dick Guggenheim, Sam Handel, Lee Hertzberg Jr., Rosa Sauer Katzenstein, Louis E. Kern, Leah Lebo, Woody Levin, Etta Levy, Ben Levy Sr., Louis Lobel, Moshe Matchison, Rose Murov, Mitchell Neustadt, Corinne Roos, Morris Rubin, Maurice Scheinberg, Judy Sklar Silberstein, Vernon Wesley Sinclair, Sig Spitzer, Joseph Paul Stewart, Ann Vanuker, N.J. Wardlow III, Donald Paul Weiss, Sandra Baron Wiener, and Friedler J. Zuzak. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 154. The translation is on 155. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chaye chon u'v'yome chon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehe shemeh rabba mevarach la'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmeh dekudsha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. You may be seated, but I would like us to sing a closing song on page 159. I have ulterior motives for Ein Kelohenu. What do you think? Yes? He's ready. He's good. We did one of these. Ein Kelohenu. It's easy Hebrew. It's a lot of repetition of the same words, and it makes us feel good to sing it. So Ein Kelohenu. There's none like our God.
Ein Kelohenu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkenu, ein Kemoshienu, mi Eloheinu, mi Chadonenu, mi Kemalkenu, mi Chemoshienu. Nodel Eloheinu, nodel Adonenu, nodel Malkeinu, nodel Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu.
Please rise for the closing benediction. Can you help me bless each other here? And look around and make sure that we all get to bless each other. We've already blessed each other with the fact that we came together and prayed together. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat Shalom. La 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 la. I'll see you in about half an hour, I guess, for Onik Shabbat on Zoom.